It was a hell of a showdown. Dr. Umar and Cynthia G. Man, as soon as this is over, you gotta go watch that episode. Welcome to Escaping the Echo Chamber. Cynthia G, Dr. Umar, head to head on the same panel. And if you were expecting things to get interesting, things got interesting. And things may have actually got a little bit more interesting than you even thought they would get. Because for those of you that don't know, Dr. Umar is a very popular Pan-Africanist, unapologetic. He is not a fan of interracial dating, interracial relationships, and he is firmly of the belief that Black people need to unite together, work together, and build our own institutions. Cynthia G is considered a divester. However, that may not be an accurate assessment of her, because there was a time when Cynthia G was militantly anti-white supremacy, was a militant voice against white supremacy. Now, it seems that Cynthia G has a lot of venom specifically for Black men. At one point, people were lumping her in with the divester crowd, and I'm not sure where she fits or if she even fits in that crowd anymore, because she is, at some point, she does appear to be quite vocal against white supremacy as it's directed against women, Black women, but she has no love for Black men at this point in time. So the topic they were talking about is there a war on Black men? Spoiler alert, of course there is. Her assessment, Cynthia G's assessment, is that no, the war on Black men is being waged by Black men. Dr. Umar was like, no, this is not self-inflicted. This is external forces oppressing and waging war, doing things specifically designed and targeted at Black men to destroy any progress that the Black community can make. And it got interesting. It got interesting because they talked about several things. They made several points. Dr. Umar talked about, hey, you've got the Kerner Commission, where they're talking about what was the cause of these racial riots and trying to come up with plans to make sure that didn't happen again. Dr. Umar talked about the civil rights movement, and he talked about people like Malcolm X. He talked about Dr. Martin Luther King, Medgar Evers, and this was in direct response to something that Cynthia G said. See, Cynthia G did ask some questions that I think we ignore at our own peril. Yeah, Cynthia G is a villain. There's a couple of things we need to stop and think about, though. One, how did Cynthia G go from where she was to where she is now? How did she become a supervillain? Because remember, every supervillain has an origin story. We ignore the origin story at our own peril. Here's where the conflict occurred. Dr. Umar is talking about how the oppression started. Cynthia G, while she didn't necessarily make this distinction, it's a distinction that I want to point out. How the oppression started and how the oppression ends are two separate things. So while there may be somebody responsible for starting this oppression, for starting this targeting, for engaging in this campaign against Black people, somebody else is going to have to be responsible for ending the oppression. Somebody else is going to have to be responsible for bringing this to an end and uplifting the Black community. And it can't be, we cannot reasonably, rationally depend on the people who are enacting these atrocities to be the ones that end it. It's got to be us. And so while she may not have made that distinction clearly, that's a distinction I'm making right now, because she did point out this. She says, hey, yeah, okay, what did Black men do when this oppression was being enacted, when these obstacles were being put in place? What did Black men do to stop them? We don't have to like Cynthia G. We don't have to agree with Cynthia G. But if there's some truth to what she's saying, if there's a point there, if there's a kernel of truth, something that we can learn from, like I said, we ignore it at our own peril. Because the point that she made that I had to stop and go, that's something we should be paying attention to. And she made the blanket statement, which is the untrue part. It's untrue that this is applicable to all of us. However, there was definitely a segment to whom this applies. There was a segment who was more concerned with integration, assimilation, than liberation. There was a segment of the population more concerned with being accepted than being independent. That's what we have to realize. And what we have to realize is if those individuals are the ones that we're looking to and allowing to be in positions of leadership, they're leading the boat in the wrong direction. The individuals in leadership, we have to pay attention if they are among the class that don't realize what this is really about and what this needs to be about. If there's some who are more concerned with the opinions of white folks than the freedom, than the liberty, than the empowerment of black people, that's a problem. Those are people we cannot allow to remain in leadership, and those are people we cannot follow. She says that no, black men did nothing. Dr. Umar mentioned those names, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, and she claimed that he had spoken out against those individuals. He had spoken out against the civil rights movement. Now, I think we can honor the courage of those who came before us, those who displayed courage, and at the same time acknowledge when, if, and when they may have gotten some things wrong. Those two are not mutually exclusive. We don't have to pretend that these men are gods, even if they were courageous, even if they were heroic, even if they fought and gave their lives for something they believed in, and they truly were dedicated to the plight and the concerns of black people. It doesn't mean that they all had all the answers or they even saw the entire picture, because that's the benefit we have today. We get to learn from others' mistakes. So if we just get stuck in saying, oh, well, they did this, so we have to do the exact same thing. No, we haven't learned anything. The enemy is adapting. We need to be adapting as well. The enemy will see what worked or what was about to work, and they will make adjustments. They have made adjustments in the past. They will continue making adjustments. We need to be moving too. We need to be making adjustments as well. But the discussion was fiery. The discussion got deep. And my question for those of you who go and check out the video, how do we win the war against black men? How do we win the war against blackness, period? What must we do? Because that much cannot be denied. That much is agreed upon. We're not winning the war. Cynthia G and Dr. Umar agree. We're not winning the war. She thinks the war is being waged by black men against other black men. He thinks the war is being waged by white supremacists against black men. Whoever is waging the war, we're not winning it. And yes, we do have to identify who's waging it, but we also have to win it. As always, don't forget to hit the thumbs up, like, share, subscribe if you have not subscribed already. But if you disagree with me, if you say, no, I don't care, I hate Cynthia G, anything that comes out of her mouth must be wrong. Okay, go ahead and give me the thumbs down and tell me in the comment section, is she wrong about white supremacy being a problem? I'll see you next time.